righty, welcome to another episode of the College Baseball Show brought to you by Just Baseball Media. I'm Jared, that's Mark, and we have another awesome episode of the Coach's Corner. We are lucky enough to be joined by Louisville head coach Dan McDonnell. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm great, guys. Having a great holiday season and excited, ready for the season to crank up.
Yeah, we were really excited to have you on. We've been just following Louisville baseball for a very long time and just excited to talk to you about the upcoming season. Before we could dive into that, when we have first-time guests, we just kind of ask you to give a little bit of background on your coaching journey and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Oh, yeah, sure. I grew up in Port Chester, New York, played 3 sports, football, basketball, baseball, just always out of the house, always busy, loved being a part of a team. I thought I was going to go to college to play football and baseball at the Merchant Marine Academy up there in New York. And at the 23rd hour, the Citadel, Division I baseball program in Charleston, South Carolina, came calling with an opportunity. And I was like looking at their schedule and seeing NC State and South Carolina and North Carolina. And I'm thinking, holy cow, like, I can play Division I baseball in the South. And it was a God-led thing. I go to Charleston, South Carolina. We play in the College World Series in 1990, kind of the Hoosier effect, and just crazy playing Cal State Fullerton and LSU after we won the Miami Regional and dogpiled down there in Miami. And that kind of really gave me the springboard into coaching, having an older brother who's a basketball coach, but knowing that, hey, the Citadel can go to Omaha. You can do anything if you set the bar high and you have a high standard. So I coach at the Citadel for 8 years. Really, I say, what a blessing. Coach at a military school, learn how to recruit, how to connect, how to just compete. We had a lot of success in the 90s, and then Mike Bianco gets the head job at Ole Miss in the summer of 2000, and he hires me to be his recruiting coordinator. And 6 years in the SEC, that took some years off my life, but I learned so much, like just how to run a program from A to Z, from start to finish. And so 8 years at the Citadel, 6 years at Ole Miss, and I get hired as the head baseball coach at the University of Louisville back in the summer of 2006 when we were a Big East program. And, of course, we go to Omaha in our first year, which was just, wow, you talk about a springboard for a program. And so, almost 20 years in, and we've been blessed, a lot of success. And I kind of compare last year's success, very similar, if you want to put parentheses around, started in 07. It started before me with the foundation being laid, but that first team to go to Omaha in 07, a lot of success, went through a couple tough years. And then, man, last year's team, what a special place in my heart, doing what they did to, as we like to say, get back to being a regular at the table. But nowadays, as we see in the athletic world, I don't know who you could say is a regular at the table, as rosters are just changing from year to year. So I think you'll see a lot more teams maybe in and out, and maybe not as consistent as the last decade has been.
Yeah, Coach, I was going to really touch on that 2025 season. I think I remember watching you in the Shriners College Showdown presser trying to talk about how everybody was overlooking Louisville, and I think you're spot on, right? You all won 40-plus games, made an awesome run to Omaha. Talk about that team, and you talked about how special it was, but what really clicked for you all last year?
It was really a combination of the kids we recruited to come here, and some of those kids were walking into our program. We had just won an ACC championship. We had just won a regional. We lost 2 one-run games at Texas A&M in a super regional to go to Omaha. And so we had a group of kids in our program that either went through one tough year or maybe 2 tough years where we felt like we were so close. And last year's proof. And the one thing about baseball, you get into the NCAAs, you got a chance, right? We talked about, we used to have, 8 6-team regionals back in the day. We were a 5 seed in the Miami regional. We won that regional. We went to Omaha. In 2007, we were a 3 seed out of 4 in the Missouri regional. Won that. We make our way to Omaha, right? Last year, I guess, I can't remember if we're a 2 or a 3 seed in the Vanderbilt regional, and we make it to Omaha. So, we look at a couple years where you're not in the NCAAs and you feel like your program is falling apart, but then you realize you're really that close. And I felt like in 24, we thought we deserved a chance in the NCAAs. I think we were the 6th seed in the ACC. The 5 seeds ahead of us, 4 of them went to Omaha, and 1 was a national seed that lost in a super regional.
Yeah.
We were the 6th seed, and it's just weird year to year, the whole RPI and strength of schedule and things that you're kind of out of your control in baseball somewhat. And so we didn't get in, but felt like we were that close. So last year was a group of kids, major chip on their shoulder, felt like they were disrespected the year before, but also taking ownership, like not pointing the finger at others. It was our fault. And we hit it in the transfer portal. We picked up some key pieces, a Kamayu Neighbors, a Garrett Pike, a Peter Michael, a Brennan Cutts. We just hit this. We added about 4 or 5 pieces to a good young group, hit it with a couple junior college guys. And then, yes, we see the fruit of our labor shine there in the postseason. And like I said, the 2007 team is always going to have such a special place in my heart for what they did for our program. And you love every team, especially the teams that go to Omaha. But, man, last year's team, that was special. And what those guys went through, and to host a super regional here at Jim Patterson Stadium, to see this place absolutely rocking. Eddie King comes back for his senior year, and you got 8,000 people chanting Eddie, Eddie, because he was just a superstar in that super regional. Just a lot of great memories from 2025. And really the ownership is, man, we got to keep this thing going. What last year's team did to get over the hump and to get back in the mix is not easy. But as we've learned in the world of sports, staying in the mix is sometimes even harder than getting in the mix.
Yeah. Coach, I know you and I have talked about leadership before, and that's going to be a big part of this team, right? You got to take some of what happened last year, that amazing run with those guys, and you got some guys coming back that are really important to this program. Speak just a little bit about how you guys, continually breed this leadership, because great teams have leaders that come year and year and they teach the next group of leaders, and it seems like you guys just continue to do so, Coach.
Yeah, I'm blessed. We got a great coaching staff. We got great culture from Roger Williams, Eric Snyder, Adam Vrabel, Brian Mundorf, but also Michael Allman, Cam Robinson, our strength coach, Nico Torres, Josh Gruber, our trainer, like Rachel Overton, our academic coordinator, Chris Morgan, our FCA director. And we've got an awesome establishment, a core group of people. And it's our job as leaders to prepare. My older brothers, we talked about, spent a long time high school basketball coach, and we share thoughts and ideas often. And we talk about preparing to have leaders in your program. It's our job to prepare to have leaders. Now, sometimes you just hit it right too. You bring in a Kamayu Neighbors, a grad student who we need a middle infielder, and he's had a nice career, but he's not a star by the numbers. Man, he was a star in our program. And Eddie King emerges as a senior leader, Matt Klein, Tucker Biven. And we just had unbelievable leadership last year through a group of kids that went through tough times and stuck it out, to kids that learned valuable lessons in other programs. And so, we want to make sure we pour into our leaders. Zion Rose Peter Michael, Wyatt, Daniel Levitz are right now 3 of our captains, and we're probably going to add another captain or 2 as we have a lot of the Alex Aliseas, the Byram Hotts, the TJ Schlagators, and then even a young core group guys of sophomores that are earning a lot of respect. So I always challenge coaches. It's our job to prepare leaders, but I'm not going to also deny sometimes you hit it right and you get the right kids for the right culture.
Yeah, coach. And just looking at, like, you talked about a lot of those guys who were the leaders last year. And you had 6 players drafted. You had Patrick Forbes, Jake Monroe, Matt Klein, Tucker Biven, Eddie King Jr., Justin West, like all those guys are gone. But it's like you have this incredible group coming back too, like Lucas Moore, Zion Rose, a lot of the names that you've already mentioned, Tage Davis. What have you seen this fall from this group, and what are your kind of some of the expectations for 2026?
Well, I think building off of last year's group, as we talk about the leadership and the great job they did in 2025, they really held the standard and they held each other accountable. And Dr. Elko is a good friend of the program, and when he speaks to the team, traditionally in our Omaha room, the coaches sit in the back row and the managers, and then you have the freshmen, younger guys, and then as you get to the front of the room, it's kind of where the seniors sit. And Dr. Elko coined the phrase a decade ago: the front of the room has to lead the back of the room. The front of the room, the players, it has to be driven from the players. As coaches, yes, we have to adapt and we have to grow. We're always growth mindset. But, I'm 55, and I'm not saying I don't need to grow, but, there's a standard with our coaching staff and our support system. It's the players, man. You guys are in the Omaha room. You're in the clubhouse. You're in the players' lounge. Like, what's the culture you guys are maintaining? I thought last year's group, and they did this thing last year, and they're still doing it this year. We meet, a couple days a week, and we love to meet in the Omaha room, and we'll wrap things up. Let's get ready for the weekend, or close up shop, or go over good or bad. And then, we might end it with a little highlight video, and I might clap. All right. And walk out the door. It's kind of like a football program. The doors open up and we all go walking out. Well, last year we finished a meeting Friday afternoon. All right, let's go. And I went to open up the doors and I walked out and like nobody moved. And I was like, kind of looked back and I stopped and, is everything all right? And they were like, yeah, coach, we're good. Kind of like waving me off, like, thanks, we're good. And I respected it. And come to find out that they were holding their own player meetings once a week. And guys were standing up. And guys were kind of doing what coaches were doing. Like, what was the good? What was the bad? What did we do well this week? What do we got to get better? And they were holding each other accountable. And I was blown away. Because you always hear about player-driven meetings, and they seem to unfortunately be when things are going bad.
Yeah.
Right? This group had taken upon themselves, we're not letting it get bad. We're going to get ahead of this. And so that tradition that I guess started last year carried over into this year. So you mentioned, the Tage Davises and the Jack Browns, and now they're sophomores. Obviously, you have the Zion Roses and the Lucas Moores and the older guys. But I love how, as I said, it's our job to help prepare leaders. I'm excited about our young core, especially the sophomore class, because as we talk about the team, our program is, I like to say, made through the sophomores. We're a high school developmental type program, and freshman years can be really good, but they can be really bad, and that's okay. But if you're in this program for a couple years, we feel like sophomores emerge and blow up to become superstars and obviously into your junior year and so on.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, speaking of that, you had 200 innings from underclassmen last year, and a lot of those guys are back. How does that make you feel like when you get a staff that's established? I mean, pitching and defense is kind of the key to get you to Omaha in the first place. You guys made it last year. You get a lot of those guys back, a lot of those innings back.
you said it on a couple things. I think we were fifth with 307 Division I programs. We had the fifth most innings by freshmen. Now that's a team that finished in the top 4 in the country. And it shows you again how, in my opinion, Roger Williams, if not the best, one of the best pitching coaches, obviously over the last couple decades, and how getting young guys to produce, be productive, but just really learn and grow throughout the season. And that's what excites me about this group when I think of the sophomores. Yes, Ethan Eberle and Jake Schweitzer had some really nice freshman years, but there's a group of sophomores in the Jack Browns, the Kason Murphys, the Aaron Englands. Like, there's a group of the Jake Gregors. There's a group of sophomores that they got talent, but they had typical freshman years. Just struggle and can't get momentum and can't get it going. And it feels like every time you run out there, you take one step forward and then 2 steps back. But we've always had patience with those guys. As long as you got character, work ethic, toughness, and do all the things. And most of them went off, had good summers. We had them in the Cape Cod League, the Northwoods League, the New England League. And so that's where I'm excited. Yes, our offense is getting a lot of preseason love. When you look at Alisea, Moore, Rose, Tage Davis, Byram Hott, 5 guys kind of in the mix every day. And then you sprinkle in a couple of freshmen and a junior college and a portal guy. And so you feel like, okay, yes, our offense is going to get a lot of love. But the pitching staff probably won't get as much preseason love. They might get some, but I think our pitching staff, as you said it, it's pitching and defense. Like, at the end of the day, I spoke at the Illinois Coaches Convention, showed a little highlight video to kick it off. And what dawned on me was we showed 6 dog piles that took us to Omaha. And in those 6 dog piles, the 6 winning games that took us to Omaha, I totaled up. I think we scored 51 runs. We gave up 11. Now, I tried to relay to the crowd. Guys, we gave up 11 runs in 6 games against a team that was 1 win or 2 wins from Omaha. So the best teams in the country. And we gave up 4 runs was the most in those 6 games. We gave up 0, 1, I think, or 2 in the other 5 games. And so you said it. I have to make sure our team knows as much love as our offense is going to get. Man, it's pitching and defense. And pitching and defense can show up when the weather's cold, can show up when it's 100 degrees, and can be the rock that you need to have a good to great year. But then again, I think what makes Coach Williams one of the best is how well we've pitched in the postseason, how he takes care of his arms throughout the year, and how they're strong and ready to be their best come May and June.
Yeah, I love it, Coach. And the last thing I wanted to touch on looking at the 2026 season is just the transfer portal class you brought in. Brought in some key pieces like Jake Bean out of Kent State, who I think was their Friday night guy, and a couple other bats that you had in Ben Slanker from Ohio and Jimmy Nugent from Lincoln Trail. How do you see those transfer pieces kind of fitting in with the group of returners, and like what role do you expect a lot of them to play?
I mean, hopefully like last year. I think the reason from Sebastian Gongora to Brennan Cutts to now to Peter Michael, who's still here, but to a Jake Bean, you choose Louisville. Obviously, if you're a pitcher, it's Roger Williams and Eric Snyder, what he does with our catchers. We like to call ourselves Catcher U with all of our catchers in pro ball and in the big leagues and everything. But I think you're choosing us because of the coaching staff and the culture, but we're not bringing in double-digit transfer portal guys. It's like we're saying, hey, Jake, you're the guy. I mean, you're going to have to earn it. And we got talented kids in our program, but Seabass is throwing on Friday night, right? Brennan Cutts was the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Brennan Cutts gets the last out in the Super Regional to dogpile on him at Jim Patterson Stadium. So Jake Bean is choosing Louisville, not because we're giving the most money, not because, we're bringing in the most transfer portal guys, but hey, man, this is a perfect fit for a guy or two. It's the same thing with our recruiting the high school kids. Like, if we had the 5th most innings in the country last year by freshmen, I would think you're going to want to come to a program like Louisville, where the ball is going to get flipped to you. And so we feel really good about the pieces you mentioned. I think all are going to have a major impact. Jake Bean is going to pitch in some form or fashion, high leverage innings. Jimmy Nugent really won the catching job in the fall. Now, we've got good competition back there, but Jimmy stepped in, had a really good fall for us. And then Ben Slanker, a really good left-handed hitter, really good outfitter. Like, Garrett Pike was really crucial for us last year. And if you notice about us, we really try not to be one-dimensional. You might not be a 5-tool player, but you're going to have 3 or 4 tools. And Slanker might not be a base stealer, but, man, he can hit, he can defend, and in our system, you should be a good to great base runner. Man, he's going to have an impact. And what we feel is a really good outfield with some depth. And so a nice combination of a couple transfer portal guys with our own players developing, and let's hope it comes together.
I love it. Mark, you got a question on your end? I got one more before we kind of hop into some of the fun questions to wrap up. Just talking about the MLB draft, I think one thing that people notice about the Louisville program is your just ability to get players to the pros, right? You have 25 players that reached the MLB since 2014, which is 3rd most in the country. I want to talk a little bit about Patrick Forbes because I got to see him at the college baseball Shriner Showdown, that matchup between him and Jared Spencer where they were just like going back and forth. That might have been one of my favorite games I've ever attended in person, just to see what he does. But talk a little bit about what Forbes brought to the team and kind of what you kind of see him doing at the pro level.
Yeah, what I'm so proud of a kid like Patrick Forbes. He was in a group of kids like Tucker Biven, Matt Klein, the Zion Roses. Like, they stuck with us. We went through some tough times as a program, and man, they showed their toughness. They showed their loyalty. Instead of a kid saying, "Well, I want to go to a place that's winning more," they said, "No, I'm going to be a part of the winning, and I'm going to get this program back to where it should be." And so I was so proud of Patrick and his family, as well as those other guys, for sticking with us and then just seeing his growth. I mean, he was a real two-way player, got over 100 at-bats as a freshman. Again, we specialize in the two-way players, from Brendan McKay and be ready. Tate Davis is going to throw a few more innings than he did last year. Obviously, we know him for his bat, but he's going to get some big innings for us. And our experience with the two-way player. But after Patrick broke his hand, his glove hand, his sophomore year hitting, it was like, okay, we just can't afford to let him be a two-way player anymore, because we all saw that potential on the mound. And it was fun watching he and Roger Williams work together. And really, for him to be a first-rounder, help us get to Omaha, I think everybody saw, man, his best days are still ahead of him. I mean, this is a young arm, a lot of life in that body, hasn't been overused by any stretch of the imagination. And so just seeing Patrick grow, you saw him in Texas. He had some lights out performances. He struggled too. He went through some really tough spots. And I kept saying, hey, Patrick, that's the world of pitching, and that's the life of a Friday night starter, especially at Louisville, especially being in the ACC. My gosh, we could spend a whole nother 30 minutes just talking about the league in itself if that comes up. But really excited about his future. And I always go back to what Coach Williams said 20 years ago when we were year one here and we were recruiting kids and we were trying to say, hey, come to Louisville. I'll never forget it. Roger Williams made the line. He said, my job is not to get you to pro ball. My job is to prepare you to be ready to move through a system. And I just remember him making that statement, and I studied it, and I've watched our Reed Detmers and Bobby Millers and Tate Keeners and Cody Eagies and Dean Kekeffers and Kyle Funkhausers and Brian Hoings and Josh Rogers and on as I watch these guys get in the pro ball and move through a system. I go, man, that's what I would think a high school kid and a family is looking at, or a Sebastian Gongora, Brennan Cutts, or a Jake Bean. Like, if I can spend a year or two with Roger Williams, how much more prepared am I when I cross the line into pro ball? And I always tell kids, the one thing about Roger Williams and Eric Snyder, every pro organization knows who they are. If you're a pitcher walking into any pro organization with Louisville over your head, they know you pitch for Roger Williams. They know who that dude is. And it's the same as a hitter. When you come from Louisville and, gosh forbid, you're a catcher or you're any position player, man, you just spent however many years with Eric Snyder, every organization knows who he is. So as I try to tell kids and families, like, we all got 30-plus years on us, and I hope that doesn't mean we're old and out of sync and out of touch. But, man, we've been doing this at the Division I level for a long time, and we know how to adapt. But I think most important is we know what pro ball is looking for. And Eric Snyder's son, Jake Snyder, is playing pro ball, having success at the professional level. And so I always say his son is living it. He knows what pro ball is looking for and what they want. And I think that goes in line with our relationship with pro ball and how confident and comfortable I think they are when they're drafting our kids, knowing, hey, man, these kids have a chance to move through their system.
Yeah, I love it, Coach. And you kind of set up the last question, kind of talking about the strength of the ACC. This is something we talk about on like all our college baseball podcasts. It's like the SEC is a great conference, but everybody overlooks the ACC at times. And I think it's just, you had five teams in super regionals last year out of the ACC. Just talk about the conference, the growth of the conference, and just kind of the expectations for the schedule in 2026.
Yeah, it's again, 2 years ago when we were the 6th seed and 4 teams went to Omaha that year, and we could have had 5. Like we were very close. We were a win or 2 away from having 5 teams in the ACC. And last year I thought we were going to have more. And it was just man, Florida State having to go to Oregon State. My gosh, that was such a what a series. And then the Arizona North Carolina series, and I really felt like we were going to get more teams in. But if I'm not mistaken, last year we were the 10 seed. We were the 9 or the 10 seed in the ACC tournament. We finished top 4 in the country, right? Going into that last weekend, I remember we could have finished like anywhere from 2nd or 3rd to like 10th or 11th, and we finished, I think, 10. And it just shows the strength of our league. I get it. We got to do it in the postseason, and we got to do it in Omaha. And at the end of the day, we got to do it for national championships. And we've come awful close. We're coming in 2nd. We're coming in 3rd. We're coming in 4th. But we just got to, when we get to that NCAA and we get to Omaha, we just got to do a little bit more, and national championships are there. They're there for our league to be taken. And there's, my gosh, like I said, there's 8, 10, 12 programs that wouldn't shock me if they make a run to Omaha and win a national championship this year.
Yeah, I love it. Mark, you want to kick off the fun questions just to wrap up?
Yeah. So, Coach, we know baseball. We're all baseball guys. We love the game. We've been around it, coaching, covering it now. What would it have been if it wasn't baseball for you, Coach?
Oh, me, it's I love football. I'm like I said, I thought I was going to go to college to play football and baseball. I hate to say my retirement job because you never know when that is, but I want to coach high school football. defensive backs. I'm the guy. I'm going to have the hat on backwards with the headset on. And when you break up a pass, I'm going to be like jumping on you when you come off the field. Love football, especially high school football.
Yeah, I love it. Kind of building off of that. So if you could coach any team, any sport, like go back in history, which team would it be? It's a very loaded question.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we have to stick with football. And I grew up, my dad had season tickets to the Jets. And of course I became a Giants fan as well in the 80s with Lawrence Taylor. So, I mean, I love the NFL, but once you go to South Carolina for college and then you coach in South Carolina, Mississippi, and Kentucky, I always call it 3 college states. Like there's no major sports team in those 3 states. And I fell in love with college and college football. And so for me, it would probably be to coach college football. And how much fun, was the in the 80s and 90s. And so I had so much respect for Miami football and what they were doing that, if I could coach college football back in the day, it would have been at a program like Miami. And then Ray Lewis became like one of my favorites. And when he got into the NFL and listening to his speeches and locker room speeches, and it's like, man, I'm 55 years old. And if that guy gave a speech right now, I would feel like I could run out there and tackle somebody. Like, I just always loved that camaraderie and passion that a Ray Lewis had.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Coach, I know I was like a 2001 Beaver. I was like, if I could go back and relive that season and be a part of that staff. I was on the sideline. They used to hire the high schools around. So I grew up just 30 minutes north of. They used to hire us to do the security. They didn't even have real security. They had high school football players come down and do security. So that was great. It was good for me when I was there.
Well, when I was a player in high school, my dad would work the chains. And I really didn't understand it. And then when my son was playing high school football, I would, as all the dads, we all had to work the concession stand and this and that. So I would always fight to work the chains, and just standing there with the chain and listening to high school coaches get into a kid's grill and just being a part of that action, like just love it. I got so much respect there. Just the values and the toughness and the camaraderie that you get from, I think, any sports team, but especially to me, high school football is like, it's not college or pro. It's now college feels like pro, but it's a level a lot of kids can get to. And you don't have to be great to be a high school football player, but you can benefit from the experience of being a high school football player.
100%. Agree. All right, Coach. Game day. Do you have any food rituals? Anything? I mean, for me, if I didn't have my red vines and my, I had to have the 0.7 ballpoint pen that I used every single day that I was using for the same lineup every single day. But I had my red vines and my Diet Mountain Dew. Is there something that you're like, I got to have this every day, or just something by habit you have?
I mean, I've gone through some. I go back to the Skip Bertman, grab a cup of coffee. I'm a big coffee guy. So even like I fast a lot, intermittent fasting, spiritual fast, where you just drink water and coffee. Today's one of those days, black coffee. So I always like my caffeine. I've gone through green tea stretches at times where I get really into green tea. So for me, it's just, I need some caffeine. I need my towel for around my neck. And I need my sunblock. And if I got those 3 things with my clipboard that has game notes on it, man, I'm ready. And the kids laugh, but like college baseball, we get forced in the double headers. And it's funny how often coaches complain about double headers. And I'm like, look, I'm here 4 hours before the game, and we went through this BP, and I'm in my uniform and I'm in the dugout. Like, I'm here. Like, I love my family. I love to get home, my wife, and see my dogs and stuff. But it's like, dude, let's play 2. Like, I'm here. I got no problem. So I've grown to love doubleheaders, and I try to make sure our players grow to love them, because in college baseball, it's inevitable. Like we're playing, and when you step back and think about it, you want to talk about some long days, man. 2 2 college baseball 9-inning games is a long day.
Yeah, I mean, you can add them up. Even in regionals, you see it. If you have to play 2 games a day, you're like, yep, all right. So being ready for those, being prepared with those moments, having those double headers early in the season, it's not a bad thing. And we're all due to weather. I mean, weather's going to hit all of us at some point in the baseball season. It's just going to be a thing. So being ready for it is important.
That's right.
Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us on the College Baseball Show. We know you all have busy schedules, so we are always super grateful for the time you take just to sit down with us, chat about the season. It's always fun for us to just be able to talk with you all. So we truly appreciate it, and we're wishing you all nothing but the best this year.
Amen. I appreciate what you guys do, and Happy New Year's to everybody.
Thanks, Coach.